Good morning. I'm Bill Walker, CEO of Superior Media Solutions, and I'm here with our best client, Tony Davino from Questex, and we're going to tell you about the process that Questex went through to outsource their production to Superior Media Solutions. We're going to just sort of, Tony will sort of go through where Questex was and what some of their goals were, and then I'll try to get through some of the things that we did. And two of my partners are down here in the front row to correct me when I'm wrong, Brian Tyler and Rob Ray. And then we'll talk a little bit about what the results were, and did Questex achieve the goals that they set out from in the beginning. And then we'll take any questions that you might have. So, Tony, if you would.
Terrific.
This is
That
back
one?
and forth.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Just very quickly, I'm just curious, from a functional standpoint, how many people here are production function within their organization? Just a couple. Editorial? Also a couple, a lot of hats. Sales? General administrative or executive management? Okay, great. Again, my name is Tony Davino, and I have been in this industry coming up on 26 years. Currently working for Questex Media, which was an outgrowth of Advanced Star Communications, if you're familiar with either of those names. 2005, we became a standalone company. In 2008, probably, at some point late 2008, we started thinking about our options relative to the function of production within Questex. That was a time we all remember where there was a lot of pressure both on a cost, from a cost perspective, but also on a strategic planning perspective to find out, how we were going to stay relevant in our markets. So a lot of our time and effort, certainly from my level and others in the organization, was spent on really, two very conflicting areas. One was how to grow the company. The other was how to position us and make sure that we were keeping costs in line in a very difficult time. A little bit about Questex at the time. We had 32 employees in production and pre-press based in Duluth, Minnesota, where Advanced Star traditionally had their offices for production and circulation and some other functions. Those 32 people that was a mix of mostly production, pre-press. That group of people was serving, I think, about 25 publications. And that was a mix of monthlies and weeklies. We have some weeklies in there, some very, very good custom publications, and we also had 5 directories. It was kind of a difficult situation for Questex because when we carved out of Advanced Star, we took a very complex production function with us. A very expensive and large infrastructure. File storage. We had proofing equipment that was going to most likely needed to be upgraded. Questex has a mix of titles which serves very, very large global brands, from a L'Oreal, as an example, in New York City, in our beauty industry cluster, to independent businesses that make racks and want to reach a mine or a pit or a quarry. So the breadth of customers were both at a very, very high end, also at a very, very low end in terms of their knowledge and expertise, from a production standpoint, our conduit on the customer side. Our servers and communication lines up in Duluth were probably also going to, at some point, look to be upgraded. We were going to need to pay a lot of attention to what we were doing there. And of course, we had a facility that housed those 32 people in Duluth as well. Duluth is not a major market, but the costs attached to that facility were significant, especially when you looked at the infrastructure that we needed to support that. The goals from my perspective as EVP over both market, sorry, you got it, Bill?
Yeah.
I'll take you right through the second slide. The goals from my perspective, both from a business standpoint as well as a production standpoint, because my responsibilities kind of bridge both of those areas. We had a real need in terms of taking the function to another level from an education standpoint. There were a lot of dynamics, and they still exist today, in terms of what we do with our content, how we plan to repurpose it, and how are we actually going to execute that to make sure that the process is as streamlined as possible. Very daunting, especially when you're with a group of magazines that, by and large, are mostly print-centric. So the talent on those magazines were print-centric, the processes were very print-centric. So we were thinking about what the next generation was going to look like, how we were going to streamline that workflow, how were we going to create a flexible workflow that enabled us to go digital first, to print, to what Jim was talking about, the multiple platforms that we were going to distribute on. From a cost perspective, obviously we were looking to reduce costs. I mean, that was also very high on our objective list. The ability to move from a fixed cost structure to a variable cost structure. It was nice to be able to look at months where we were struggling a bit and see the costs associated with producing the publications flex down. At the same time, we knew if we were growing, those costs were going to flex up. But it was a very easy financial model, and it was flexible. The IT infrastructure that was pointed towards production, we wanted to remove that high complexity in infrastructure. And let's not forget about training and education. I don't know, it seems like we have maybe a mix of bigger companies and small companies here. Everyone, I think, would say the same thing. We're all doing more in terms of our functional responsibilities. We don't have the luxury of having a specific focus. Back in the day, we did. So when things were rolling up to my level, I didn't have the time to think about what was needed from a specialist perspective. And so that was very, very important to us as well. So as we walk through, thank you, Bill. As we walk through our options, we had several options on the table. Everything that we know today in terms of outsourcing. Of course, we had the offshore opportunity. We had the opportunity to actually think about retaining our employees and making investments, but obviously that did not go very far because most of the investments that we needed to make were much more customer-facing and strategic and had to do with product development, not necessarily product support. We had a wonderful opportunity with SMS, worked with them from a time frame really from probably late October 2008 to actually going live in June, I think, Bill, of 2009 on an outsourced basis. And what did we do? Luckily for Questex, we had the opportunity to actually move our employee base to SMS. That removed a lot of the concern, I think, from an internal perspective. Production is a critical customer touch point. There was a lot of concern, from the standpoint of how would that impact our customer relationships? What would that mean? We had really a great benefit in our relationship with SMS where they took the best of the best from Questex and brought them over to SMS. Those 25 titles that we were publishing were transitioning to a new platform. So that was a new technology that needed to be learned among the Questex stakeholders, both editors and graphic designers. SMS did a wonderful job of training and bringing those people up to speed. We had 20 designers and 40 editors at the time that needed that training. We had a financial component as well because the production teams at Questex were also feeding into our financial system. So that became an issue. We integrated our Questex financial system into SMS's system. Shortly thereafter, we launched a new ad portal as well for our clients. Questex was upgraded to CS4, so we got the upgrade that we needed without the investment that we were looking to make as well at that time from an internal perspective. Part of the technology that SMS brought to the table made it possible for employees both within SMS and Questex to work from home. So we transitioned a lot of the production folks from an office environment to a home office environment. That facility expense that would have moved to SMS, they were able to obviously remove that because of the technology that they brought to the table in the cloud. At the same time, SMS took over both the paper procurement function and the inventory management function from Questex. So all of that was done in a very short period of time. And I would say very, very successfully. The challenges around that, I would say there were two primary areas that you could never underestimate. Anytime you're moving people, and I'm sure that we all know this because this isn't the only area we've done it, but anytime you're going to move people onto a new system and a new process, the change management process is critical because people are very comfortable in the old way of doing things. And so the ability for us to work with people to understand the benefits, not only to their own personal work habits, but also to the company, probably did not do a good enough of job of that in the beginning. Secondly, our partners at SMS were tremendously flexible in terms of allowing our employees some what I would call flexibility in working within the new system. And I think that got them on board quickly and gave them a great comfort level with our new partners, but also maybe enabled older workflows a little longer than we probably should have. So in hindsight, maybe we should have been a little bit more forceful in terms of process adoption. But I would say where we're at today, we've dealt with most of those issues. They continue to evolve because we're always working with SMS for new distribution points and new technologies. And I would end by saying that's a very, very powerful thing to remember here is that when you're working with an outsourced company in production like an SMS, you are getting the intellectual capital that wakes up every day thinking about how to do it better, quicker, more effectively, and across more platforms. And we don't have that ability on a daily basis because we're also thinking about selling customers and paying bills and growing market share. So I think that's my portion.
Yep.
I'll hand it over to Bill.
Great. Thanks, Tony. That's